There are a large number of unanswered questions regarding Islamic finance. And INCF research is trying to provide answers to these questions. I'll give you one example of it. For a long time, and that means over the last 10 years, even people who are players in the Islamic finance market are critical of the way Islamic finance is moving. Basically, they say we are not doing anything which is much different from conventional finance. The litmus test of Islamic finance is how much is it helping to reduce poverty, how much it's helping to create inclusion, people who are excluded from the financial system, how do you bring them in? And third thing, how do you reduce inequality? And these are real litmus tests of the beneficial aspects of Islamic finance. And critics say that this hasn't happened. The question is, then, why isn't it moving? And so a lot of people on the other side say, no, this is just nonsense. People are critical because basically they don't understand. So we started saying, let's look at actual data and see whether or not this hypothesis that Islamic finance is not what it's ideally supposed to be, and that these criticisms are in fact valid. Let's look at it. And so we had, for instance, just now, one of our very bright students finished a dissertation. And this dissertation's idea is that let me look and see if Islamic finance is about risk sharing, let me see to what extent is it actually leading to sharing of risk. So she took all of the countries in the Organization of Islamic States and looked at the data of the banking operations. And she found that not only Islamic finance is not doing any risk sharing, in fact, it is shifting risk. I mean, it's beyond even what conventional finance does, which is basically transferring risk. You shift risk when you and I get into a deal, but we shift the risk of our deal to a third party who doesn't even know that you and I are taking risk on their behalf, which is what happened in 2007-2008 crisis. All the risk of the operations of the financial system was passed on to the taxpayer who had no idea that risks were being taken on its behalf. So when this happened, the student found that actually most of the Islamic banks are actually shifting risk rather than even transferring it, more so than the conventional finance does. So now you have concrete evidence to tell the industry, you are not doing what Islamic finance is. At least don't pretend you are doing, because obviously you are not. So there's a better way of doing it. Now, of course, Central Bank of Malaysia, Bank Negara, is moving in that direction, has taken the first small but very significant step through IFSA. Basically, IFSA has this investment account that says nothing is guaranteed. You come in here, you invest your money in investment projects, you have to take the risk. You have to share the risk with people who are going to borrow the money and invest. So this is one example. There are other examples that are very critical, very important in terms of what they have done, in terms of answering questions that are now basically are being raised in critical assessment of Islamic finance, and then looking at where are we going, where should the industry go. Those are the major questions.